back with our third episode to discuss why men and women react generally, how they react to childhood traumas. And um, the reason that we chose to talk about this is if you listen to the first two episodes, in one of those episodes, I mentioned why I started focusing on the niche that I started focusing on. Um, my I wear this necklace from time to time, and it is not because I am very religious, but it is because it holds my father's ashes. And my relationship with my father was very strained for a very long time. And so I wear this oddly to remember him and kind of remember why I navigate relationships the way I navigate them now, and how, what I do differently to remember that also the people that sometimes cause us trauma in our lives come from a certain place. And generally, that is because they have some kind of trauma that they did not resolve, and maybe, it affected how they treated us. And so it's a very difficult thing to do to have a perspective of, well, this person was kind of shitty because they went through something. Like most of the time we don't care or we don't understand or whatever the case may be. But it's part of that for me. It's a reminder that, hey, this person wasn't the greatest at this role, but they went through things also. And, I got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, for me, I grew up without my mother and my father, which I touched on earlier on in our first couple of episodes, and it had like a big impact because I always wanted to make people happy because I felt abandoned. And I think a lot of men who experience that, there's two ways we can do it, right? We can be very strong, very bold. We can be Superman, and then some other ones can be very soft, Clark Kent. But two different people for this example because one is very soft, gets along with people, very people pleasing, and the second is very strong. He's Superman, he has a cape, he can fly and do all these different things. So, what I had to learn is I had to learn to go from conditional love to seeking unconditional love. And
Mm.
that was a struggle because I think men in general are raised not to tap in to their emotions like that. And we have to learn it from women, and women will inspire us. But if you're not able to have healthy women around, where are you going to find it, right? You're going to try to mask that with what some people call toxic masculinity. So you get into your fights, you get into your aggression, you get into your vandalism, you may even steal. But we have to learn that with all this power, with all this strength, we need to channel it into emotional awareness. And that's something that I had to learn. And without my grandmother coming to the picture or without some very powerful women coming in the picture in my life, I couldn't learn that because once they're able to soothe that, then I was able to have healthy relationships with men and women.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because I've witnessed. Obviously, I haven't been through life as a boy or a man, but I've witnessed, right, in my own sons and men in my life, my oldest son and my youngest son. Neither one of them, they have certain biological ties that they struggle with abandonment from, and I've witnessed them both go through very angry phases of their life. And one's still pretty small. One is a grown man now, and he's kind of gone through that cycle of I'm angry at everybody to now I'm a people pleaser because I want people to like me, right? Like I want people to like me so that people will stay around. And it is very much a real cycle that men go through. Where on the other hand, as women, we tend to go through a similar cycle, but more in my experience and in my observation, we go through a more physical experience of specifically, I don't know about mothers because I've always had my mother and my children have always had, my daughters I've always had their mother. But when it comes to absent males, we go through this maybe a promiscuous phase to where, okay, well, my thought process wasn't so much I want people to like me. My thought process was, well, you're gonna fuck me over, and so I'm gonna get you first. And really, I was just hurting myself and not, the people that I claimed that I was getting over on. And then we kind of get older, and then we also move into the people pleasing kind of phase of that cycle as well. So it's a it's a very interesting thing to experience and to witness. But I love what you said about emotional intelligence because, oh my gosh, emotional intelligence, emotional control, emotional awareness, these are all things that really, really are going to change our lives when it comes to navigating our grief and in relationships.
Yeah, like when you look at like the different ways you can soothe yourself, like there's this technique where you ho open up your hand. Let's say like I'm a man, I have my hand open, and then like my partner or a wife or whomever will just like draw a circle in the palm, and it calms you down, right? Right, and it's like taming the beast within. Like, and they even did this in one of the Marvel movies where Black Widow did that to Incredible Hulk. So he went from the
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk back to Bruce Banner, right? So this is why it's important for us to come together to have these conversations because you have the different dynamics. Like, let's be honest, right? Like women who go out and are promiscuous because of their trauma, men who go out and are aggressive because of their trauma, they're trying to dominate someone because they
Yeah.
felt dominated their entire life. They felt powerless. So let me get power from taking it from someone else because it was taken from me. Then when we wake up and that person who we taken our so-called power from is gone, now we're like, oh, someone else has left me again. So now we have no choice but to people please. Let me give you sex. Let me give you money. Let me give you my time. Sure, it's killing me on the inside. I'm dying on the inside,
Right.
but I know that at least you're there the next morning. I know that you're coming back the next week. I know that you're always going to be returning up until the point where when we begin to learn it for ourselves, we're like, oh man, you know what, Terrain? I was a piece of crap all those years. Because think about, I don't know if you've done this, but think about all the people that were hurt because of our actions. Now
Yeah.
they've gone out and hurt other people because of us. That is a very difficult task to accept.
Yeah, it's so my recently I had a conversation with one of my children about literally quote unquote hurt people. And the conversation was about, you know, we can attempt to get back at the person who hurt us by hurting other people all we want, but it's never going to get back at that person, and it's never going to make us feel better because guess what? We have to keep doing it, right? Like if it worked, we'd do it one time, we'd be really mean to somebody, and then we'd feel better and everything would be great. but but it doesn't. It keeps hurting them and it keeps hurting us because we are committing this act over and over again that we're hurting other people, but we're also taking from ourselves, and we are putting so much effort into revenge that is never going to reach the actual person that we want revenge on.
You ever watch that show, Maury Povich? Are you familiar with that show?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you are not the father, right? Like that's what he's known for. But
Yeah.
before he did that, he actually had a show where he brought people on who were bullied from high school and they
Really?
reunited them. Yeah, this is like before he became the paternity king. So what would happen is a lot of these people who did the bullying, they didn't even remember the people
Mm.
that they bullied a lot of times, right? But the ones who were bullied, they remembered that person so much
Oh,
that they
absolutely.
dedicated all those years to this transformation just to show them up.
Yeah.
And right, and the dynamic is interesting because, like you said, we spend all this time trying to get back at the person that hurt us. A lot of times they don't even remember it, but we remember because we were damaged
Yeah.
so much. And those who are living their life just to get one more up on them, they're living in a prison because this person probably doesn't even remember us. They're like, who? I did what? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry I did that, right? Like high school, if you can survive from age 15 to age, I want to say 25, you've accomplished so much. That's a difficult 10 years.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and it is not even, it doesn't even stop with just bullying too. Like there's people that every once in a while I'll think back, people that I dealt with when I was in this really like self-sabotaging period of my life, and I can't remember their faces. Like literally can't remember, or I'll be like, I wonder what this person's up to now, and don't even remember their name. Like, and it's weird because it's like, even if I wanted to apologize, I couldn't. Is I don't remember key factors, and it's crazy. And I have these conversations with people, and the person that you're using to hurt yourself, even by staying in this relationship, or whatever the case may be, or keeping them in the home so the family's not broken, and you know 5-10 years from now, is that person still going to be in your life? And will they have still been damaging you for 5 to 10 more years? Like, what does it look like now? It's difficult to let go of something that you're leaning on, but how much more difficult is it going to be enduring that for 5 to 10 more years? What's it going to be like for them in 5 to 10 years when you stop abusing them, abusing yourself, to fill this void that's still going to be there 5 to 10 years from now.
Like what we did, even though there's different degrees of what you and I did, and probably many other people, we still had a sense of control and we
Yeah.
could come back from it, right? Like
Yeah.
look at the last couple of years, like when you look at the high school kids who like the school shootings,
Mm-hmm.
they can't come back from that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mm.
That's so true. Yeah. There's just certain things that you can't. You know, saying something to someone out of line, I can apologize for that. Um, Stealing, or minor petty crimes, I can pay my penance for that. But if we don't change our behavior, there's really like, and even once you go so far, because once you murder someone, even if you don't ever murder again, you still murdered someone. So it's like, you might get out and go back to your life eventually, depending on the circumstance, but that person is still dead. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be as extreme as murder, but murder, that person is physically not existing anymore, so that's kind of the extreme case. But even the damage we do to people by how we treat them, like, it can't be undone, and some things you just can't come back from, like you said.
That's why it's so important to make sure that you understand how your childhood is showing up in your adulthood.
Yeah.
You realized it young, even though when we talked about it, you didn't give yourself credit. Like you realized it in your teens and your 20s.
Yeah.
Like look around at our generation. How many people do we see that are our age or older doing things to come back from it that we were doing in our 20s? We're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
10, 20 years later. Or there's some people that maybe I know I did this, I had to put my distance. I was like, I don't think you're ever gonna get it. It's like you just don't see what you're doing, and you're in your 40s, in your 50s. And sometimes I look at it and I wonder, is the only way for them to change is for either someone to do it to themselves or for them to have a really bad consequence because of their action? Or maybe they truly have to be alone because it doesn't seem like words are enough, but unfortunately they're struggling to see what they're doing, and maybe they don't care to see it.
I think it is something that sounds so simple, although it is very difficult to do. And I know this to be true from my experience within myself and my experience as a mother with certain revelations that my children have had and that I have had. It really is simple. Now, it's a simple action. However, getting there is very difficult. But no matter what extreme you've gotten to in your self sabotaging, because realistically, let's face it, when we are treating other people badly, it really is mostly because we're sabotaging ourselves. And that's because we haven't healed from something. But the very first way to do that is to acknowledge what you're so pissed about. You know, it it seems like a big thing, but it is really very simple. And for me, I was so pissed about not having control. For one of my kids, they were so pissed because of abandonment. And I think that once we really sit down, and I don't say control easily because I thought, okay, well, I'm pissed at the world because I was sexually assaulted as a child twice. Then I was assaulted as a teenager. Then I was abandoned by this person, that person. And yes, those things are all true, right? But what I was really pissed about as an adult is that I felt like I had no control over my own life. And I say that because I can't change the traumas I've endured, but I can change why I'm angry at the world and what I'm doing because of that anger. And I think once we really sit down with ourselves and have that conversation and recognize what I'm so pissed about, then I can start paying attention to other factors. Okay, well, I'm mad at this. And so I do this. I yell. I don't feel like I'm in control. So I start yelling, or, whatever the case may be. There's so many other little things that we start noticing in our lives. I'm bad with money. I don't know, I'm promiscuous. Whatever the case may be. It's because I don't feel like I have control. That's why I'm pissed at the world. Okay, what do I do when I feel out of control? These are all the habits. I overeat, I overspend, I blah, blah.
You, me, and so many others as children, we don't have control.
Yeah.
That's why we have
Yeah.
caretakers, right? Our parents are the ones who are taking care of us. We don't have control, right? You
Yeah.
remember, be home at 9 p.m. We're both old enough to remember, be home before the street lights turn on,
Yeah.
right? These are things that they would tell us because we
Um,
didn't have control, but a lot of times it's supposed to be out of care and not control. Like, don't put your hand on a hot stove.
right.
Why? Because I care for you. I don't want you to be hurt. It's not, I want to control your
Right.
movement,
Right.
right? But the problem is what happens when the caretaker is not doing it out of care, but it comes across as out of control, then that's where the lying starts. That's where the breaking of the rules. That's where it's that, well, you told me not to spend $5, I'm going to spend 20. You told me not to talk to that boy or girl, I'm going to talk to five of them that's like them. You
Yeah.
told me not to have sex before marriage. You know what? I'm going to have sex every single day for the next year. That's 365 days. 365 partners, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the Olympic Village, right? All I need are bodies and condoms
Yeah.
at that
Hopefully.
point, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, right? And we're talking about the condoms, everyone, okay?
Right. Right.
Hopefully, right?
Right.
So when it's coming out of that, it's concerning, but
Yeah.
that's where we have to figure out, okay, how am I going to regain control? And then if you don't know what healthy control looks like, you're going to do exactly like what so many people do until one day you wake up and you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And we better hope that it's sooner than later because you can be someone that has children as beautiful as they are, but what if they're impacted because of it now? You can
Yeah.
have someone that goes out and commits a crime and it turns tragic, like we talked about, and now you're in jail for the rest of your life, right? There's all these things that are consequences of our actions because maybe we weren't guided appropriately, maybe we didn't understand enough, but ultimately it comes down to we want to get control because we don't know what healthy control looks like. How are we going to do it? And I think sometimes we get led down the wrong path.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in your opinion, does everything stem from our childhood? And I know the answer to this, but I just want to know what you have to say. In your opinion, does does everything stem from our childhood? And is it okay to write things off as childhood? This is my childhood caused this, and that's just what it is. That's why I am the way that I am.
I think almost everything comes from our childhood. And I'm going to answer your second question this way. Whatever has happened to you is not your fault. What happens afterwards is yours.
I love that. That
Yeah.
is absolutely perfect. Yeah. You know, myself and others around me, I've heard say, once you reach a certain age, your trauma is your responsibility to heal from, right? Um, and that can be tricky because, like you said, like, what if I wasn't taught this? What if I wasn't taught how to navigate this difficult thing? What if I was never taken to therapy as a kid? What if I was taught therapy is bad? Like, what if I was taught not to trust the therapist? What if I was taught this? What if I was taught that? Right? But at a certain age, especially with all the available information, and the first time I heard this, I was like, that doesn't really seem fair. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I actually have to agree. And I didn't think it was fair because I'm looking at it from like a mother's point of view, right? And I'm like, well, is it fair to tell my 18, 22, 25-year old, well, you're old enough now to fix your own problems? And I think there's a kind of like a lot of layers to that, right? Like, yes, it is fair to say that, but my approach matters, right? Like, I shouldn't just go to my child and be like, you're 18, fix your own shit. Like, okay, let me give you some ideas. Let me give you some outlets on how to work through these things. But we don't have to come at people like, oh, grow up, but at a certain age, once you become an adult, it is your responsibility to approach maturity, to navigate, teach yourself if no one else has taught you, um, or find someone in your life who you look up to that can maybe help you, or seek out a therapist, or whatever the case may be. But at some point it does become our own responsibility to work through the things that scarred us as kids.
Yes, 100%. There's a time where you have to say, I want something differently. Listen, some people are going to ignore it as long as they can until their body tells them, hey, stop ignoring me.
Yes.
Right? I knew someone that was in their 50s that they had trauma, but they didn't want to ignore it because they were always able to find someone to keep their to keep their bed warm, and they're able to make money. When both were taken away from them, they're like, "Oh my
Mhm.
God, I need to fix this." Guess what? They're 50 now.
Yeah.
So you're gonna fix it, yes. But let's say, for example, it started when you're an adult. Let's say 21, because in America, you guys like 21 for drinking and all this beautiful stuff, right?
Don't
You
say
have
you guys.
29.
I think 21 too young, but
Too
so do
young.
I.
It's 18 here in Canada.
Really? For
Yeah,
drinking?
we're more responsible. Yeah, we're more responsible than you guys.
You know what though? I believe that.
It's a cultural thing, but that's something for another day. But from 21 to 50, you have 29 years of trauma. Are you going to live another 25, 29 years to fix it?
Right. Right.
Right? If it's a
Yeah.
1-to-1 ratio, but let's say, for example, you're going to do a 10-to-1 ratio. That means you're going to have to grind for 2 to 3 years to fix that trauma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some people are not built for it. And some people will do the work. 6 months later, they're like, "Ah, you know what? It's taking too long. Let me go back over here and do everything that I was doing."
Yeah. 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 And and that can be in relation to a couple of things because I've seen this with people that I love. I've seen this with people that I know. Um, as a support person, it is also important. It's also important to understand that we, as the support people, we cannot control how other people navigate their trauma, right? Like we can suggest, we can support. And sometimes it can be frustrating because you're like, no, don't stop the 6 month mark. Like, keep going. You're almost there. But to someone who's in it, because I've been on both sides, and to someone who's in it, that 6 months can feel like I've given this more in 6 months than I did in 10 years. And I don't see any change. And I'm going back to what I know. And, and I've seen this with cycles with people who they do great. And then the moment something happens, they just fall right back down. And they don't do it on purpose. But, there's also that kind of familiarity in my previous, okay, well, this was difficult, but I'm familiar with it. Then, okay, well, this is difficult, but I'm not familiar with the outcome. So I'm going to go back to what I'm familiar with too.
Yeah, go back to the question, right? Terrain, if I can build a booty in 90 days, why can't I heal my trauma in 90 days? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, one's not that important.
Right.
And the other one is, I'm
Speak
talking
for
about the
yourself.
trauma,
I'm just kidding.
everyone. Yeah, right? I know everyone's like, Terrain, I want a nice ass. I'm like, well, you can go to Spain or Venezuela. You can get a BBL and be like everyone else and
Right.
take pictures and become an Instagram model and have even more trauma because then you have OnlyFans and then you do all this and then you do all that, right? You see how it's full circle when it comes to that?
Right.
It's
Right.
literally like if you don't catch yourself, you will default what is your baseline, and your baseline is always going to be the behavior that you don't want. You have to catch yourself. Listen, I've been doing this for many, many years when it comes to my own journey. Every once in a while, I catch myself because it's still there because it was implanted from when I was a child. It's going to take time because as a child, I was helpless.
Right.
Now I'm powerful, not because I go to the gym, because I want to regain, right? There's four pillars of health. It's four pillars of health. It's mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and emotional health. Everyone knows the physical because that's what you see. The emotional you don't see, but you feel that,
Right.
right? And that's the difference. You have to lift the weights to it. You have to run the marathon. You have to train yourself, and that's going to take a little bit longer. So forget everything else, but focus on that because it's difficult. And the rewards only you can see in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think oftentimes it kind of reflects back to the difference in how men and women navigate these traumas in the fact of women, we feel like, okay, well, either one thing, I need to focus on my appearance so that people don't see how I really feel. They just see how I look. Um, or, the kind of power grab. Well, and this again, I speak from experience. The power grab, I didn't have that control, and I'm going to take it wherever I can get it. Whereas I think men do the physical too, but I think for men it's more emotional in the sense of what they try to change or try to mask. Like women, for us, okay, I'm going to mask my feelings with beauty, but for men it's more, okay, I'm going to mask the feeling with another feeling. Like how you mentioned, going through this period of anger. I'm pissed off at everything because I want people to see this and not me hurt and sad and crying and feeling this emotion, that because society likes women prettier, society likes men showing manly emotions and not, you know, whatever.
Yeah, one shows boobs, the other one shows biceps, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's basically what it is. But once you begin to realize that, well, men have boobs too, and women have biceps as well. Once you realize that you can show both the physical and emotional
Right.
strength, it's a little bit different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
You're winning. You're winning. Once you undercover your superpower, you're winning. And to your point, yeah, men and women handle it very differently. But if we can, you know what I'll say in regards to that? I'll say this. If men and women can come together and show each other the beauty within, I think both would be better off. And the reason why I say that is there's things in men that men can't see that a woman can see. And there's
Yeah.
things in women that women can't see, but a man can see. So I'm going to say that. I think that's what is needed more of.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too.
You want to end it there, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, we kind of we shed light on our main point and we kind of dove a little bit deeper. And then we kind of gave everybody, okay, well, let's change this. Let's shift this. What can we do to kind of
Mm.
shift the way that we as a society are handling these things? And so I think that's a great place to wrap it up.